Hey, welcome back. Today, we're diving into an explainer covering something that completely flips how we think about the future of human spaceflight. It's a groundbreaking project called the Overview Effect Experience. And, this isn't just about building better rockets. It's actually all about preparing human psychology for the cosmos. We're going to be mapping out the infinite threshold today, so let's just get right into it.
Right off the bat, we have to start with this massive, kind of uncomfortable question. Our aerospace engineering, it's undeniably ready for deep space. But what about our psychological software? Is that actually equipped to handle it? I mean, really think about it for a second. Are our minds truly prepared to navigate the vast, honestly terrifying unknown of absolute infinity? Or are we secretly just terrified of it?
Okay, so let's break down this core problem. Right now, our whole aerospace paradigm has this glaring discrepancy. The hardware, the thrusters, the life support systems, those modular habitats, that stuff is fully spacefaring. But the human operating system inside that ship, it's entirely earthbound. We're literally trying to navigate the infinite cosmos using a psychology that was built on finitude, terrestrial scarcity, and just this deep subconscious terror of nothingness. And honestly, this mismatch is creating a massive bottleneck that's preventing true exploration.
It's fascinating because our current approach shows this absolute reliance on terrestrial anchors. Right now, aerospace psychology optimizes almost entirely for stabilization. We basically try to recreate Earth inside a tin can. We focus on stress mitigation, team cohesion, and keeping people firmly linked to their Earth-facing identity. So, we're doing a great job preparing physical bodies for Mars, but we are absolutely not preparing human minds for the vastness of infinity. We're kind of holding ourselves back just by clinging to what we already know.
To truly go out there, we desperately need a software update. On one side, you have the Earth-facing mindset. This is driven by preservation and attachment. When it looks out at the unknown, its primary impulse is recoil. It wants containment. It operates on a timeline that's linear, time-scarce, and, frankly, death-fearing. But a spacefaring mindset? That flips the whole thing on its head. Its primary drive is identity continuity. It navigates the unknown instead of recoiling from it, operating on this non-linear, death-literate framework. Because let's be real, you simply cannot explore infinite space with a finite, fearful mindset.
And that brings us to one of the most absolutely vital capabilities we need to develop. It's this concept called void literacy. It's such a fascinating term. Imagine being out in deep space. There's no up, no down, no day, no night. Everyone you've ever loved is just a microscopic blue dot a million miles away. Void literacy is the psychological skill to maintain your identity and self-coherence when every single one of those external, familiar reference points dissolves. It's the ability to generate meaning internally when the outside world is giving you nothing but empty space.
Now, normally, we model the void, or even the concept of death itself, as this terrifying terminal cliff, like a total wall of annihilation. But the zero-point polarity model completely reframes this. It asks us to look at the void not as a cliff, but as a neutral 0 point, a place where experience simply flips polarity. Nothing ends at zero, right? It just reorients. And when the mind is actually trained to view the void this way, that automatic panic response just collapses. The unknown threshold suddenly becomes a gate rather than a grave.
So, the big question is, how do we actually train human beings to do this? Well, enter the project at the center of today's explainer, the Overview Effect Experience. This is a meticulously designed mind-body training ground for the infinite. It's specifically meant to bridge that exact gap in our psychological readiness. And what's really cool is the scale of it all. It ranges from portable, intimate dome installations that you'd see at consciousness retreats, all the way up to massive, cinematic setups at huge venues like the Sphere. It's a full-on physical and sensory journey meant to fundamentally reorient your perspective.
Inside the experience, participants go through this beautifully sequenced blend of immersive modalities. We're talking breathtaking cinematic space environments, mind-bending spatial sound, and highly specific breathwork techniques. You literally shift from slow to fast breathing to create a state of really deep immersion. Through brainwave entrainment and these symbolic life reviews, the experience gradually dissolves your ordinary perception of self and place. You actually get to feel the physical sensation of casting off the weight of your earthly fears and just drifting beyond your own personal narrative.
Now, I want to pause here for a second because I know exactly what some of you might be thinking. A simulation of ego dissolution in the void? That sounds absolutely terrifying. But the creators are super clear on this. This is not some horror-themed death simulation. You aren't being aggressively broken down or forced into traumatic shadow work. The tone is actually profoundly peaceful. It's all about awe, mystery, and expansion. It's designed as a gentle, awe-inspiring recognition of the infinite.
This gentle unfolding is guided by a highly structured narrative called the initiation arc, and it happens in 3 distinct phases. First up is the departure. This is where participants shed their preservation mindset and basically leave their earthly attachments behind. Second is the abyss, or the void, where you face that infinite threshold directly. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, there is the return. This focuses heavily on post-mission integration so that the entire experience is actually grounded back into your daily, everyday reality.
You can see how this maps out visually. You start at the departure point, journey through the dark abyss of the void, which is where the actual psychological breakthrough happens, by the way, and then you enter that return phase. The core insight here is that properly preparing for the void dramatically improves psychological outcomes. Because, think about it, you don't want to just barely survive a brush with the infinite. You want to complete the initiation and return as a fully sovereign, space-faring mind.
What's fascinating is that the actual feelings evoked inside this installation are deeply familiar to us, even if we've obviously never been to space. The project suggests that staring at Earth from orbit taps into the exact same archetypal territory as floating in deep, dark water, or having a really profound lucid dream, or watching a total solar eclipse. It's that wild, paradoxical sensation of realizing you're incredibly small, yet somehow intimately connected to something breathtakingly vast. Deep space, deep oceans, dreams, they all evoke this shared human confrontation with boundlessness. But crossing that threshold definitely requires guidance. And that brings us to this incredibly cool concept, the space doula, or the cosmic psychopomp. Look, stepping into the infinite creates massive ontological shock. It's essentially a total collapse of your understanding of reality. If you just blast someone into the void without any integration, they're going to return psychologically fractured. So the space doula is the psychological guide. They understand the subconscious architecture of the void. Their whole job is to ensure that when your identity dissolves into that vastness, it stays a unified, transcendent experience, rather than just splintering into panic.
To see exactly why this guidance is so critical, we can look at 2 completely different nervous system responses to space. On one hand, we have the bracing response. Think about when William Shatner went to space. He described it as a black ugliness that threatened death. His mind projected human fragility right onto the void, which spiked his sympathetic nervous system into high alert fear. But on the other hand, we have the expansion response, which was famously experienced by astronaut Michael Collins. By turning away from Earth and facing the deep, his nervous system stabilized. He accessed parasympathetic calm. He didn't brace against the void, he actually expanded into it. And that contrast leads us to what is probably the most powerful, central suggestion of this entire explainer. What if we are looking at the unknown all wrong? Like, what if the exact same force we deeply fear, that vast, infinite nothingness, is actually the very source of wonder, freedom, creativity, and exploration? By fundamentally reframing our relationship to the void, we can literally flip our deepest fear into our absolute greatest catalyst for cosmic and honestly, personal liberation.
So the crucial takeaway here is that for true spacefaring readiness, humanity has to undergo a species-level individuation. We have to transition from feeling desperately like a drop in the ocean, always seeking terrestrial belonging and external validation, to actually becoming the ocean in a drop. We have to mature into autonomous, sovereign meaning generators. Because at the end of the day, the universe isn't keeping us out. Our own fear is what's keeping us boxed in.
Which leaves us with this final, profound question to think about. The overview effect experience isn't just about preparing astronauts for a trip to Mars. If we can successfully use these immersive tools to train our everyday minds to unconditionally love the infinite void of space, how will that absolute lack of fear transform the way we live, create, and connect right here on Earth? When you finally stop fearing the unknown out there, you unlock absolutely limitless potential right here. I really hope this explainer sparked your curiosity today, and I'd highly encourage you to start exploring your own void literacy. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep looking up.